No RV is perfect, but there's a lot to like here in my Jayco Pinnacle. Now, for quite some time, I've been wanting to do a video on just likes and dislikes, really with two purposes in mind. First, for those who are currently in the market for a fifth wheel, maybe you're cross-shopping the Pinnacle against the Solitude, or the Montana, or Cedar Creek, or maybe even a Volano or a Riverstone. You know, sometimes it can be hard navigating through all the choices, especially when you're comparing brands, and this is an expensive purchase, right? So I thought it'd be helpful just to lay out my likes and dislikes. And by the way, I am just a Pinnacle owner. I'm not affiliated with Jayco. I'm not a salesperson, so no one's sponsoring this video. It's just my own candid thoughts. In fact, if you haven't seen my full tour and review here on the Pinnacle 37 MDQS, definitely check that out first because it'll kind of give some context to today's video. But secondly, I also wanted to create this video to give some feedback to Jayco, the manufacturer of the Pinnacle. You know, even great products have the opportunity to become better. And if you want to stay at the top of your class, you've got to be constantly innovating and improving. So with that in mind, let's begin the rundown. Now, these are going to be real quick staccato fashion. We'll start with the likes, and then I'll end on a sour note with the dislikes. All right, first like is going to be the overall decor and colors here in the Pinnacle. I mean, I really think the design team nailed it on this one. So many fifth wheels nowadays are just going all light and it just looks bland, but I like how Jayco has mixed dark and light wood tones. Then you've got different trim and accents, materials on the valances, on the couch, and everything just blends so nicely together. You know, nothing looks like an afterthought. So I really think the design team did a superb job picking out the colors and all the materials here in the Pinnacle. In the bathroom, I really like the shower surround. You know, I've said this before in other videos, but I think it is the nicest shower in a production fifth wheel right now. It looks so much better than those one-piece fiberglass inserts. This next one surprised me. Believe it or not, I like the mattress that Jayco ships with the Pinnacle. I think this is the first RV that I've ever bought where I haven't immediately replaced the mattress. So that says something right there. You know, I'd say if your mattress at home is a 10 out of 10, then I would rate this one probably an 8 out of 10. It's a foam core mattress, it's lightweight, and it's very comfortable. All right, let's talk about the mid-bunk. I really like the compromises that Jayco settled on overall. You know, they have to balance the head height here in the loft space with the head height in the bunk room below. I'm over 6 foot and I have no issues accessing the bunk room below nor up here in the loft, so they really did a great job splitting that. I also like that they integrated a coat closet. You know, so many manufacturers today are forgetting these coat closets in RVs. And then I also like that they actually put a hinged door on the bunk room, and that kind of helps buffer some noise as opposed to sliding doors, which you're finding a lot of times on RVs nowadays. And then last, I love how they put a desk in the bunk room, and they've got a tray here you can easily convert into a computer keyboard tray, so you can both put your kids in here to sleep, but then also use it as an office space. I also really like the J-Command, the BM Pro system here that replaces your traditional analog control panel. Now, I did a full video demonstration and review on the BM Pro system, so I'll put up a link for that. Definitely check it out if you're interested. But basically, you know, a lot of manufacturers are going digital and the feedback is not so great on these systems. So I really think BM Pro got it right by having this bank of dedicated hard buttons below the screen, which function completely separately. In my opinion, I think this is one of the best systems in the business right now. I like the dinette layout, you know, between the legless table and then this hutch kind of buffet counter against the wall that the table's mounted to. Of course, that's where the TV is housed outside, but I like how it gives you a little extra space on top for napkins or cups, and it really reminds me of a higher end Class A layout. I also like the abundance of windows in the Pinnacle. You know, so many brands nowadays boast of having the biggest windows in the business, but then they often neglect your neighbor's side, you know, opposite to your campsite, such as windows like this one above the fireplace that works out great with the televator, or the window above the stove, the range, just all that extra natural light that pours in, and even the window above the bedroom headboard. You know, that's another window that manufacturers often skip, but it really makes a big difference. I really like that Jayco builds the dishwasher prep into their units so that you can come back and add a dishwasher if you choose to do so. Now, I did do a separate video here on this Fisher Paykel that I added, so I'll put a link up for that. But this is my first RV with a dishwasher, and folks, I am sold on it. It's a really nice feature to have. This next one may seem kind of insignificant, but I really like how Jayco makes use of this space under the step for shoe storage. You know, it's unused space that would normally get closed off with a riser, but I like how they left it open. It's a small detail, and I really don't understand why more manufacturers don't do it. I also really like that they've incorporated dimmable lights throughout the coach. Now you can do that on the B and Pro panel, but also on these remotes. There's 4 in mine, and you just tap and hold on the desired light, and then it'll dim, and then you let go and tap again to brighten it back up. So this is super useful, especially if you're trying to create a mood. I like the front cap on the Pinnacle. It's got a nice shape and mold to it. You know, some fifth wheels have a front cap that's just downright ugly, but this one's got a really nice stance to it. And on that note, I didn't get the full body paint option, but I actually think the vinyl graphics look pretty decent here on the Pinnacle. You know, they didn't go overboard, and they just used some basic simple colors with some pinstriping. So I actually think it looks pretty decent. I like the 120 pounds of propane capacity that you get with the generator or even the gen prep. They give you 3 40-pound tanks, 2 on this side, 1 on the other. Folks, that is a game changer, especially in the wintertime. I really like the Nautilus panel that Jayco installs here in the wet bay. And you know, some other brands are doing this too, but not all of them. It's really simple. I like how you got just one inlet for your fresh water and then another inlet for your black tank flush. You know, you can change everything with the valves. It's super easy to use, just looks really clean. Here on the back corner of the RV, I really like this power core reel. This is something that I came to appreciate after ownership, that you know, you only have to pull out the amount of cord that you need at your campsite, so it looks really neat. And then you don't have to wrangle the giant heavy 50 amp power cord. It just pulls it right in there. So I really have come to enjoy this. I like that the Pinnacle has a heat pump built into the main air conditioner. This is my first RV that's had that feature, and it's super useful. I really don't understand why more manufacturers don't do it, because then you can heat your coach with that heat pump when it's, you know, 40, 45 degrees or warmer without having to go through your propane. All right, last like is gonna be the carpetless flooring throughout the coach, even here on this mega super slide. You know, it's so nice not having any carpet whatsoever. But I'm also gonna use this as my first dislike. As you know, this is kind of a new feature in the RV industry, and a lot of brands are still doing carpet, and then some are doing kind of that woven material. So there's a lot of talk about how this will hold up, the longevity of it, you know, with the slides opening and closing and then walking on top of it. And I happened to notice a few months after I took delivery here, I flipped it up, and I don't know if this will show up in the video very well, but there were some extreme wear marks right up along here corresponding to this slide trim piece, and then along some of these other edges that are a little bit sharp. And it looked like it was just ready to puncture through the underside of this vinyl flooring. So what I've done here, and it seems to have saved it, is I came back with some clear, almost like duct tape or gaffer tape that goes underneath, and I went the full length of the flooring here on the slide and then kind of went double and triple up here where it's against this trim piece where it's a little bit sharper. And that seems to have remedied the problem. I just wish that Jayco would have taken a little more attention to address, kind of put that wear layer on from the factory. You know, I'm just not sure that the manufacturer of this floor, if they knew how it was being used here, that they would approve of it. So I really think if you're going to get the Pinnacle or the North Point or another fifth wheel that has this vinyl floor on the slide here, just make sure you do put a wear layer, you know, some kind of tape underneath for it to wear on as opposed to the flooring itself. One minor dislike here in the bathroom is this smaller vanity sink. Now, I think they fixed this in the 2022 models. I think they put a larger vessel sink on top of the counter, but this one just is a little bit on the small side. All right, another dislike, and this one's a major one in my opinion, and that is the manual open close for the bathroom exhaust fan here. So every time you want to use the fan, you flip the switch on the wall, but then you got to reach up here and manually twist this knob to open and close the lid for the fan. And I really think in this price point, you know, the Pinnacle is north of 6 figures on the MSRP. They should have put a lid that was automatic that opens and closes with the fan as it's turned on and off, just like I've replaced it with here. And then of course you get the remote here on the wall and a cover out on the roof that's built in. So I really think Jayco should consider implementing this change pretty quick. You know, it's just kind of more inconvenient to have to go up on the roof and scrape off all that Dicor and swap it out with this model. So I dislike the material that's used on the recliners and the couch, along with their overall shape and style. Now, I'm not an interior designer, so I'm not saying I know what would be suitable to replace them, but what I don't like is when you get up close to the material, you can see it's got these ribs, these lines in it, kind of almost like jeans. And I always expected when I touched this, I would feel those ribs, but this is completely smooth. So it's almost like a print that's been printed onto the material, and it just doesn't feel very authentic. And then as far as the shape goes, I think it's all the rounded edges. It just doesn't, to me, match the rest of the decor. So this is probably the one weakness I would say out of all the elements visually would be the recliners, the material, and then the shape of the couches and such. I've got the slide pushed in just a little bit to show you this next dislike, and that is this fender trim that goes around the wheel wells. I do not like this. I think it looks really cheap. This looks like the same trim that they would put on their entry-level travel trailer. I think they should have gone with something that was maybe a smooth plastic that was painted to match this fender skirting, or metal, and I really think that would have complemented the exterior better. Another dislike I have on the Pinnacle is the cargo carrying capacity. So the gross vehicle weight rating on these is 16,995. With all the options configured on mine, I have a cargo carrying capacity of about 1,500 pounds, and I think that's really weak. I'd like to see the gross vehicle weight rating increase to maybe 18,000. Other brands are doing it, and so I'd like to see the same on the Pinnacle. Another dislike has to do with these MORryde step above steps. Now, obviously the stability of these is great compared to the folding steps, but they take up a ton of space when you go to fold and unfold them. You can see here, it's right up against my barn wall. I have to have a total of 55 inches between the fifth wheel and the barn wall where I store it here in order to get these steps in and out each time. I used to have the Lippert version of these and actually needed 5 inches less. So 5 inches is a pretty big deal. And I think the reason is, you can see here, they've actually left a gap between each step where the riser would go. Instead of having the steps butted up together where the riser would go, or even overlapping as a lot of residential staircases have, they've actually left this gap here. So I'm not sure why they've done that. Actually, when I first got this unit, I found myself kind of clumsy where I'd get my foot kind of caught in between the steps where the risers go. So I'm not sure why they left that spacing. I would recommend that they trim that spacing and push these steps a little bit closer together so that it doesn't take quite as much room to unfold the stairs. I dislike the tank level sensors, so although they are digital here on the BM Pro system, you're still limited to the same 1/3 accuracy, just like the analog sensors that the RV industry has been stuck on forever. So I wish these would be accurate, even to the 10th, or something more like the sea level sensors where they go up in 1% increments. Another dislike is here in the wet bay. You've got two handles, one for your black and gray, but then there's a third gray tank that's kind of under this slide and really hard to get to. So I'd love to see them move that third gray tank handle to be here with the others. It's nice having a big window on your entry door in the Pinnacle, but I dislike the shade and screen door arrangement. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If you come here in the RV and you close the door, let's say you want to open the shade on the screen door. Well, you can kind of reach your hand in here through this little hole and struggle to pull it up, but you can only get up about 1/3 of the way. And then to do the rest of it, you've got to open up the door all the way. Then you've got to open the screen door, come down on the steps, and then you've got to get in here, lift the screen all the way up to the top, and then shut the screen door again, and then shut the door. It just feels really clumsy. Maybe there's a way for Jayco to incorporate a retractable screen that would kind of retract into the wall perhaps, because this is not just a problem for Jayco. I mean, any brand that has a shade in the door with a screen door, you're left with this clumsy situation of how to open and close that shade. One more dislike outside, I would like to see Jayco transition to using Azdel as the backer here on the fiberglass walls instead of the traditional Luan. Azdel is composite, so it's going to hold up a lot better and reduce chances of delamination. I also dislike on the lights with the BM Pro system, the majority of them are wired into it, so you've got these remotes throughout, but then you do have a bunch of analog switches here that control lights that are not wired into the BM Pro system. And I would say, probably a half to 2/3 of the lights in the coach are connected into the BM Pro system. And then you're left with, about 1/3 to a half of the lights that you're walking around manually flipping the switches on and off. And really, I think some of the main ones I'd like to see would be the front cap lights. Some of the ones where you're having to go all the way outside the coach to turn them on and off at the switch. It'd be so nice to have those incorporated into that BM Pro system as well. And on that note, I've got 4 of those wall remotes with my floor plan that are connected to the BM Pro system, but I think I'd like to see at least one more, maybe right here by the dinette. A lot of times when I'm looking to turn the dinette light on, I look over here as if I'm reaching to get a switch, but you actually have to go all the way over here to the recliners and pick it up down here. So maybe just one more remote in my floor plan. And last dislike has to do with something here in the bathroom. So a few weeks after I took delivery, I noticed that I was missing a small trim piece, a little acorn nut cap for this bolt and nut here on the toilet. So I reached out to Jayco's Parts and they helped me identify the part, but they refused to ship me this part under warranty. They actually made me go through a dealer, and I explained to them several times that my dealer was 7+ hours away, but they insisted they do not send parts direct to the customer, that you must go through the dealer. So I did, and 2 months later, I got my nut cap. But I really wish that Jayco would change their policy on that a little bit and work with customers. You know, a lot of customers are on the road RVing, and it's just not feasible for them to go through a dealer. For something small like this, I really think Jayco should adopt their policies and change it and just serve the customer, you know, be respectful of their time and send small parts like this direct. Well, all right, those are my candid thoughts, likes and dislikes on my Jayco Pinnacle. But for all you watching, especially fellow Pinnacle owners, let me know if you agree or if I left any out. Let me know your likes and dislikes in the comments below. I'd love to see it turn into a forum, a discussion, where Jayco can come back and look at all the feedback, and that would help improve the product, because that's going to help us as owners, right? And it's going to help Jayco's bottom line. So definitely let me know your likes and dislikes in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.